Now what I'd like to do is use a bunch of the different tools and object modeling techniques to show you how you can combine different types of tools within Amorphium to create an object and how they kind of work together. I'm just going to create like a candle on a little stand, and we'll use that as our base to show this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a sphere and click and drag out here to create a sphere for the bottom of my base. Let me make sure this is unshaded so we can see it. And I'm going to go ahead and build a box out here too, and drag it down. And what this is going to do is I'm going to use this to cut the sphere so that I actually will have a flat part to my base. So as I can see, I didn't totally make the box big enough there, so I'm going to go ahead and go to Scale, Control click on Scale, or right click on the PC and choose just the Y-axis. And this will allow me to scale the box in just the Y. And I'll go ahead and move him down a little bit, rotate my camera back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use the Boolean cut tool. Want to keep the sphere, so I click it first. And okay, there we go. So it cut the bottom of the sphere. So as you can see, if I rotate this around, you can see that the bottom has been cut. And let's go ahead and make a, let's go ahead and make a ground plane for it to set on. So I'm going to use a planar tool. And to make sure that they're both sitting on the ground, use the drop to the floor tool. And this will make sure that they both are sitting on the 0 of the y-axis, so that they both drop down to the floor. They should be touching perfectly right now. So let's make a cylindrical part to the base. So go ahead and make a cylinder here. Now what I'm going to do is use numeric functions to be able to move these guys together. And for now, since I don't really want to be looking at the ground plane because it's kind of in my view and getting in the way here, I'm going to just go ahead and turn it out of my view right now by clicking the little eyeball. And what I'm going to do is take the cylinder here and control click either on the name or on the object in the window and go to Properties. And that would be right click on the PC. And now I have my position for that particular cylinder. Since I want it to be in the center there to line up with that cut sphere, I'm going to go ahead and make this 0. I'm going to make both the X and the Z 0. I don't need to worry about Y right now. So now it's centered there, and let me move the sphere that way too, since it's probably not lined up as well. It's a little off, so we'll just change it. Okay, so now I'll take the cylinder here and I'll go ahead and move it up like so. Now let's go into Effects here, and we'll go ahead and go make sure I'm in the front view, and let's fit this. And what I'm going to do is use the belly tool here and taper it in and give it a nice kind of hourglass shape. And we'll even use bottle to kind of pull out the top a little bit. So I'll come back into Composer. So I have this nice little shape here. And I'll go ahead and Boolean and join these two together by using the Boolean join. Since I have that one selected already, I can select this one, and that'll join those two together. Alright, so now it's joined those two together, and so you can see that since the mesh cylinder was the first one I selected, kept the name from that one. So now they're both one object. And let's go ahead and create another cylinder. This will become kind of the candle itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and rename these so that we have a little bit better idea of which objects we're working with here. So control click on it, go to properties, or right click on the PC, change the name, and we'll make this floor. And this particular cylinder we want to make the base, so we'll call it base. And this one's going to be the candle. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually go back into properties on the candle and center him up as well. And we'll go ahead and move him somewhere like that. Let's move the camera in a little bit here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is the candle itself, we're going to use the tools and use some brush tools on it and choose the candle. Okay, so now since we want it to kind of, candle's kind of always a little melted on the top where, the wick has been burned, so we'll go ahead and push in on the top, use kind of a rounded brush tool, make the radius somewhere right about like that so we get a nice little ridge, and we'll use a direct brush and make sure our direction is pushing in, and we'll make our radius right about like that. So now as I push in on here, just by clicking, now I can rotate this. You can see I've got kind of indented it in there. Now, because a candle has like drips and some imperfections in it because of being melted, we'll go ahead and add some drips down the side, and by making my radius kind of smaller, and we'll pull out on the object, and just by coming here, and I should turn my symmetry off actually. So now I can, and we'll use a softer edge brush, so I can just come in here and start to pull where our wax dribbles may have come down the side. And if I want to maybe indent this here a little bit, use the smudge tool, which is like pushing your thumb on clay, and click and drag, and we can make sure my direction is down. Click and drag and kind of mush the clay down, so to speak, and give it that nice kind of candle melted feel. So I rotate around and give it some more dribbles down the side. My radius a little smaller. We can make some more kind of clay dribbles there on the candle. So you can see just by mixing the tools, you can get some pretty organic looks. So now do a little more over here. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and smudge it just a little bit more. Get some nice melted wax look to it. Now if I go to the front of this, go ahead and zoom out a little bit, make my radius a little bit bigger, and now I can go ahead and use the smudge tool really large like and really mush on the candle. And this can be animated too. We could animate the candle melting if we wanted, which I'll show a little bit later in the animation section how you can use these tools to animate. That looks pretty good. So now if I come back into Composer, now I've got kind of a melted candle look to it. So let's go ahead and create the wick, which will be really small. It's probably not small enough, but we'll tweak with it. And it'll be down here called mesh cylinder, because that's what the default name would be. Change it to wick. And I should probably change the center point. And now just keep moving it until I see it protrude through there. And I'll go ahead and scale him down and change it back to all axes. So just scale it back down, maybe somewhere in there, and go back to so now I'll go ahead and go back into effects. I'll choose the wick, and of course it's going to be really small, so it'll fit in, and I'll do a nice little bend to the wick a little bit, and then go into tools. And since the wick is probably going to be not perfectly smooth like this, I'll go ahead and use the smudge tool to kind of tweak it around a little. Give it some character. So if I go back into Composer now, it's going to be this little bent wick. Okay, so now everything is just blue, of course, which probably isn't the chosen color for all this. So I'll just go into Paint, and I'm going to choose, for the wick, it's going to be kind of a darker black, so we'll give it just kind of like a dark gray, and use the Fill tool and fill it with black. And the candle, I'll go ahead and fit this. We want kind of maybe a yellowish color. Let's actually get kind of somewhere in there. Maybe a little too green. Take the green down a little. More like that. There we go. And so if I wanted to add burn marks on the where the wick, might have dropped some, may have burned a little bit of soot on there. Choose a little bit of a gray, and we'll use a noisy brush and make the pressure low and make the radius. That's about right. So we got some. We can maybe even put a little bit of dirt on the side there. Let's rotate this around. And just by painting a little bit there. And the base, let's go ahead and go to front view. Give it a base color, kind of a brown, and then materials. What I'll do is I'll zoom out, and we'll give this kind of a marbly cloud pattern. And I'll choose paint as one of them, which is the brown, and I'll choose a different color, which I will edit and pick kind of a lighter lighter brown. And let's scale it down just a little bit, so give it kind of a marble base look to it. So I've got this marble type base, and since this is cylindrical, I want to give it a cylindrical mapping so that it cylindrically maps that cloud pattern a little bit better. And then last would be the floor. And since the floor is perfectly flat, you won't see it here unless you go to a top view. And I'll go ahead and zoom fit. So let's go ahead and give this planar mapping, and go to materials and give this, let's do a checkerboard. And I'll go ahead and edit the checkerboard, and we'll make this more like 500 and 500. So instead of a red, let's choose a blue, and let's make it a darker blue, somewhere more like that. And maybe even darken the white a little bit so it's not so white. And we'll hit done. Now if I go into Composer here, and I'll turn on my floor again. So now we've got our little scene that we've made here. And select the wick with our candle. So now we can go ahead and just do a quick render and see what it looks like. I'll turn on shadows, keep a still image, well, it's a little smaller. Turn my anti-aliasing up, and choose render. And that's basically how you would combine your modeling tools. And as you can see, when I jumped back and forth between the different tools, that you can easily interchange your mesh objects from using tools to effects, Boolean cuts, and additions, and to create different types of objects, and to have where you can interact the tools together to create different types of object shapes.